Long before the United States, before the idea of democracy crossed the ocean, there was a man with a vision. A prophet who carried a message so powerful it ended centuries of bloodshed and reshaped history. His name was the Great Peacemaker. And tonight, we uncover the story of how one man united 5 warring nations under a single law, the Great Law of Peace. A world of war. The Haudenosaunee, known to many as the Iroquois, once lived in endless conflict. The Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, and Seneca were locked in cycles of blood feuds and revenge. Brothers fought brothers, villages burned. Children grew up knowing only war. It was in this chaos that the Great Peacemaker was born. Some say he was Huron, others say Mohawk. His origin is wrapped in mystery, but all agree on one thing. He was chosen to deliver a vision that could end the violence. The vision of peace. The Great Peacemaker dreamed of a tree so massive its roots stretched in all 4 directions. At its top sat an eagle, guarding against threats. And beneath its shade, all nations lived together in harmony. This was more than a dream, it was a plan. A system of unity and law that would bind nations together without erasing their differences. The prophet called it the Great Law of Peace. The reluctant messenger. But the Great Peacemaker knew he could not spread this message alone. He sought allies. Among them was Hiawatha, a man who had suffered great loss and carried deep grief. Together they traveled from nation to nation, speaking of peace, law, and unity. The Mohawk were the first to listen. The Oneida followed, then the Cayuga and Seneca. But the Onondaga, the most divided and warlike, resisted. Their leader, Tadadaho, was feared for his cruelty. His twisted body and serpentine hair were symbols of the violence he carried. And the confrontation with Tadadaho. The Great Peacemaker and Hiawatha faced Tadadaho not with weapons, but with words. They combed the snakes from his hair, straightened his body, and healed his spirit with the promise of peace. At last Tadadaho accepted the vision, and with that, the 5 nations became one. Just the great tree of peace. On the shores of Onondaga Lake, the new Confederacy planted the tree of peace. Its roots extended in all directions, symbolizing unity. An eagle was placed at its top, forever watching for danger. Beneath the tree, weapons of war were buried, literally cast aside so that peace could flourish. The 5 nations pledged themselves to the Great Law, creating a system of councils, clan mothers, and checks on power that balanced unity with individual voices. A government. Ahead of its time, the Great Law of Peace established something revolutionary. Leaders were chosen not for wealth or conquest, but for wisdom and character. Women, clan mothers, held the power to select and remove chiefs. Decisions required consensus, not domination. Centuries later, when European settlers came, they marveled at this system. Scholars believe that the Great Law of Peace directly influenced the U.S. Constitution, though the Haudenosaunee had already lived it for generations. The legacy of the Peacemaker. The Confederacy grew strong, becoming one of the most powerful alliances in North America. For hundreds of years, the Haudenosaunee remained united under the vision of the Great Peacemaker. To this day, the story is told in longhouses, spoken by elders, sung in ceremonies. It is not myth, it is memory, living tradition, and a reminder of what peace requires: courage, vision, and the willingness to lay down arms. But the Great Peacemaker was more than a prophet. He was a teacher, a healer, and a statesman whose dream of unity shaped nations. His story reminds us that even in the darkest times, one voice of peace can change the course of history.